Today I have prepared for you 3 true horror stories about the dark web. Enjoy listening to them. Share your opinion in the comments. As I sit in front of my computer screen, the glow of the monitor casting a soft blue light across my face, I can't help but feel a surge of excitement. Ever since I stumbled upon mentions of the dark web during my studies in computer programming, I've been utterly fascinated by its existence. The allure of the unknown, the hidden corners of the internet where anonymity reigns supreme, it all feels like an untapped world waiting to be explored. I take a deep breath, my fingers poised over the keyboard as I launch the Tor browser. My heart races with anticipation as I navigate through layers of encryption, finally arriving at the threshold of the dark web. It's like stepping into another dimension, one where the rules are different, and danger lurks around every corner. As I delve deeper, I come across forums and marketplaces teeming with illicit activity. Drugs, weapons, counterfeit goods, all available at the click of a button. But it's not the illegal commodities that catch my eye. It's the criminals themselves, the ones who think they're untouchable, operating in the shadows beyond the reach of law enforcement. With a newfound sense of purpose, I begin to envision a program, a digital vigilante, if you will, that could track these criminals down and expose them to the authorities. It's a risky endeavor, one that could easily land me in hot water if I'm not careful. But the thrill of the chase outweighs any sense of caution. As I start to sketch out the framework for my program, a sense of excitement bubbles within me. This could be my chance to make a real difference in the world, to use my skills for something greater than myself. Little do I know, however, that my journey into the dark web will soon take a sinister turn, leading me down a path from which there may be no return. Days turn into nights as I immerse myself in the creation of my program. Lines of code blur together as I fine-tune algorithms and implement encryption protocols to ensure the safety and anonymity of both myself and the targets of my investigation. It's a delicate balance, walking the line between vigilante justice and outright vigilantism. As I work, I can't shake the feeling of being watched, as if the eyes of the dark web are upon me, scrutinizing my every move. Paranoia sets in, and I find myself constantly checking over my shoulder, half expecting to see shadowy figures lurking in the corners of my apartment. But despite the creeping sense of unease, I press on, driven by a singular determination to see my project through to the end. I can already envision the headlines. Anonymous programmer exposes dark web criminals, leads to dozens of arrests. It's a fantasy perhaps, but one that keeps me motivated in the face of mounting challenges. Finally, after weeks of tireless work, my program is complete. I dub it Shadowcatcher, a fitting name for a tool designed to hunt down those who thrive in the shadows of the internet. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, I activate the program and set it loose upon the dark web, eager to see what it will uncover. Little do I know the Pandora's box I've just opened, the forces I've unwittingly unleashed upon myself. For in the depths of the dark web, there are far darker things than even I could have imagined. Days turn into weeks as Shadowcatcher scours the dark web, gathering data and compiling profiles of suspected criminals. It's a painstaking process, sifting through mountains of encrypted messages and hidden forums. But with each new lead, I feel a sense of exhilaration coursing through my veins. I spend sleepless nights poring over the data, cross-referencing information, and piecing together the puzzle of the criminal underworld. It's like playing a game of cat and mouse, with each side trying to outwit the other in a high-stakes game of digital espionage. But as the weeks drag on, I start to notice something unsettling. The targets of my investigation seem to be one step ahead of me at every turn, as if they can anticipate my every move. It's as if Shadowcatcher has become a double-edged sword, cutting through the darkness but also drawing attention to itself in the process. Despite my growing sense of unease, I press on, driven by a combination of curiosity and stubborn determination. But little do I know that the true danger lies not in the criminals I seek to expose, but in the very fabric of the dark web itself. One fateful night, as I sit hunched over my computer screen, a message pops up on the Tor browser. It's encrypted, its origins shrouded in mystery, but the contents send a chill down my spine. "We know who you are." The message reads, "and we know what you're trying to do. But be warned, the dark web is not to be trifled with. Keep digging, and you may find yourself in deeper trouble than you ever imagined." I feel a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins as I read the words, a mixture of fear and excitement churning in the pit of my stomach. Who could be sending me this message, and how do they know about Shadowcatcher? But despite the warning, I can't bring myself to abandon my quest. If anything, the message only serves to fuel my determination, to prove to whoever sent it that I'm not afraid to face the darkness head on. With renewed vigor, I dive back into my work, determined to uncover the truth behind the message and expose the criminals who lurk in the shadows. Little do I know, however, that I'm about to walk right into a trap from which there may be no escape. As I delve deeper into the dark web, the lines between reality and fantasy begin to blur. Shadows seem to dance at the corners of my vision, and every creak of the floorboards sends a shiver down my spine. Paranoia sets in, and I find myself constantly looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see masked figures lurking in the darkness. But it's not just my imagination playing tricks on me. Everywhere I turn, I encounter obstacles and dead ends, as if someone or something is actively working against me. Messages go unanswered, leads turn cold, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. And then just when I think things can't get any worse, I receive another message on the Tor browser. This time it's a video file, grainy and distorted, but unmistakably real. I watch in horror as the footage unfolds before my eyes, revealing scenes of unspeakable cruelty and depravity. It's a live stream, broadcast from somewhere deep within the dark web, showing a group of masked individuals bidding on human lives as if they were nothing more than commodities. I feel bile rising in my throat as I watch, the full horror of what I've stumbled upon finally sinking in. But before I can react, the video cuts off abruptly, leaving me staring at the blank screen in shock. I feel a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead as I realize the gravity of the situation. I've stumbled upon something far more sinister than I ever could have imagined, and now I'm in way over my head. With the weight of the dark web pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket, I know I have to act fast if I want to survive. But as I scramble to cover my tracks and erase any evidence of my involvement, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Every sound seems amplified, every shadow elongated into a potential threat. I feel like a cornered animal, trapped in a cage with no way out. But despite the overwhelming sense of dread gnawing at my insides, I refuse to give up without a fight. With trembling hands, I activate Shadowcatcher one last time, using it to trace the origins of the video and uncover the identities of those responsible. It's a risky move, one that could easily lead to my undoing, but I know I have no choice. As the program works its magic, I watch in breathless anticipation, praying for a miracle. And then, just when all hope seems lost, I receive a hit, a real, tangible lead that could finally bring me one step closer to the truth. With newfound determination coursing through my veins, I gather my belongings and prepare to make my escape. But as I slip out into the night, I can't shake the feeling that this is only the beginning, that the darkness of the web still has its claws sunk deep into my soul. But for now, at least, I'm free. And as I disappear into the shadows, I know that no matter what lies ahead, I'll never stop fighting to expose the truth and bring justice to those who deserve it most. Months have passed since my narrow escape from the clutches of the dark web, but the memories still haunt me like ghosts in the night. Every time I close my eyes, I see the faces of those poor souls, trapped in a hell of their own making, their silent screams echoing in the darkness. But despite the nightmares that plague my sleep, I refuse to let fear consume me. Instead, I channel my guilt and remorse into action, dedicating myself to a new mission: to bring down the criminals responsible for the horrors I witnessed, and to ensure that no one else suffers the same fate. With the help of law enforcement agencies and cybersecurity experts, I launch a full-scale investigation into the darkest corners of the web, determined to root out evil wherever it may hide. It's a daunting task, fraught with danger and uncertainty, but I refuse to back down, knowing that lives hang in the balance. As the weeks turn into months, our efforts begin to bear fruit. One by one, we track down the perpetrators behind the human trafficking ring, dismantling their operations and bringing them to justice. It's a bittersweet victory, tinged with sorrow for those who were lost along the way. But it's also a glimmer of hope in the darkness. But even as the dust settles and the guilty are brought to account, I know that my work is far from over. The dark web is a vast and ever-evolving landscape, filled with dangers both seen and unseen. But armed with the knowledge of what lies beneath the surface, I vow to never stop fighting, to never stop shining a light into the shadows. And as I look towards the future, I know that redemption lies not in the erasure of past mistakes, but in the relentless pursuit of a better tomorrow. For in the end, it's not the darkness that defines us, but the light we choose to bring into the world. I never imagined curiosity could lead us down such a dark path. It all started innocently enough. A group of friends gathered around a computer, sharing stories and laughing late into the night. But then, someone mentioned the dark web. I heard you can find anything there, Alex said, his eyes glinting with excitement. I don't know, man. Isn't it dangerous? I replied, feeling a tinge of unease. Come on, don't tell me you're scared, Tara chimed in, her voice teasing. And just like that, curiosity got the better of us. We fired up Tor and began our descent into the depths of the internet. The screen flickered to life, revealing a maze of links and cryptic addresses. Each click took us further into the unknown, the anticipation building with every page load. What are we even looking for? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't know, anything interesting, Alex replied, his voice eager. Hours passed in a blur as we delved deeper, stumbling upon forums and marketplaces shrouded in secrecy. But then we stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. A video link, buried deep within a chat room, promising something unimaginable. Against my better judgment, I clicked it, and what I saw will haunt me forever. The screen filled with images of torture and suffering, the sounds of screams echoing through the room. I felt sick to my stomach, bile rising in my throat. We have to get out of here, I said, my voice trembling. But it was too late. We were in too deep, and there was no turning back. The images from the dark web burned themselves into my mind, haunting me day and night. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shadow. We need to do something, I said, pacing back and forth in my room. But what can we do? We don't even know who's behind all of this, Sarah replied, her voice filled with frustration. We have to find out. We can't just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist, I said, my determination growing with every word. And so we began our investigation, scouring the dark corners of the internet for clues. But the deeper we dug, the more elusive our quarry became. It's like they're always one step ahead of us, Alex said, his frustration palpable. But then we stumbled upon a lead, a cryptic message hidden within a forum, hinting at a group of shadowy figures pulling the strings from the shadows. We have to find them, I said, my voice filled with determination. And so we set out on our quest, following the breadcrumbs left behind by our mysterious adversaries. As we delved deeper into the underbelly of the internet, the lines between right and wrong began to blur. What started as a quest for justice had become an obsession, consuming us in its darkness. We're in too deep, Sarah said, her voice tinged with regret. But we can't stop now. We're so close, I replied, my voice hollow with exhaustion. And so we pressed on, our resolve unwavering in the face of danger. But as we drew closer to the truth, the dangers grew ever more real. We're being watched, Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. And sure enough, we soon found ourselves pursued by shadowy figures lurking in the darkness. We have to keep going. We can't let them intimidate us, I said, my voice filled with defiance. But deep down, I knew that the darkness was closing in, threatening to swallow us whole. As we continued our investigation, we found ourselves drawn deeper into the twisted world of the dark web. We uncovered horrifying truths that shook us to our core, each revelation more disturbing than the last. We have to stop them, Sarah said, her voice trembling with anger. But how? We're just a group of friends against a powerful and elusive enemy, Alex replied, his frustration evident. But then we stumbled upon a breakthrough. A name whispered in hushed tones across the darkest corners of the internet. The puppeteer, I said, the words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. And so we set out to unmask the face of evil, determined to bring justice to those who had suffered at his hands. Our pursuit of the puppeteer led us to the darkest depths of the dark web, where we found ourselves face to face with the embodiment of evil itself. We have to be careful. He's dangerous, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But despite our fear, we pressed on, driven by a sense of justice that burned within us like a flame. And then we found him, a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness, his eyes gleaming with malice. So, you've come to challenge me, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. We're here to stop you. To put an end to your reign of terror, Sarah replied, her voice filled with defiance. But the puppeteer only laughed, his laughter echoing through the darkness like a sinister symphony. You think you can stop me? You're nothing but insects buzzing around my feet, he said, his voice filled with disdain. But we refused to back down, standing our ground against the darkness that threatened to consume us. And then the final showdown began, a battle between light and darkness that would determine the fate of us all. In the end, it was not brute force or cunning that brought down the puppeteer, but the power of truth and justice. We did it, I said, my voice filled with relief as we watched the authorities take him away. But as the dust settled and the darkness receded, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that lingered within me. We may have stopped him, but at what cost? Sarah said, her voice filled with sorrow. And she was right. Our journey had taken its toll, leaving scars that would never fully heal. But despite the pain and the darkness, there was also hope. Hope for a brighter future where the light of truth would always triumph over the shadows of evil. And as we stood together, our bond stronger than ever, I knew that we would always be guided by the light, no matter how dark the path may seem. As we stood amidst the aftermath of our harrowing ordeal, a sense of melancholy settled over us like a heavy blanket. The weight of what we had witnessed, the lives that had been lost, weighed heavily on our hearts. We did what we had to do, Alex said, his voice strained with emotion. But what cost? Sarah whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I had no answer for her. The truth was, we had sacrificed so much in our quest for justice. Our innocence, our sense of security, our peace of mind, all had been tarnished by the darkness we had faced. But even in the midst of our despair, there was a glimmer of hope. For in the darkness, we had found strength we never knew we possessed. We had faced our fears head on and emerged on the other side, battered but unbroken. We may have lost a part of ourselves along the way, but we also gained something, I said, my voice filled with determination. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. We gained the knowledge that we are stronger together, that no matter how dark the world may seem, as long as we have each other, we can overcome anything. I replied, my words ringing with conviction. And as we stood together, united in our resolve, I knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, we would face them together, as friends bound by a bond stronger than steel. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined us, but the light that shone from within. I never thought I'd find myself venturing into the depths of the dark web. It all started with a harmless conversation at a friend's house, where he regaled us with horror stories he claimed to have stumbled upon online, tales that would terrify even the bravest souls. But amidst the chilling narratives, one phrase stuck with me like a splinter in my mind: dark web horror stories. As the night wore on, the curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to explore this hidden corner of the internet. So, fueled by equal parts curiosity and naivety, I found myself sitting in front of my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard, contemplating whether to take the plunge. What's holding you back, man? My friend's voice echoed in my head. You think you can handle it? With a shaky breath, I typed in the ominous words and hit enter, immersing myself in a world I never knew existed. The screen flickered to life, revealing a labyrinth of illicit activities and forbidden knowledge. The dark web was like a twisted version of the internet, a place where anonymity reigned supreme and morality was a foreign concept. I scrolled through pages filled with drug deals, counterfeit goods, and unthinkable services for sale. But amidst the chaos, one listing caught my eye. Weapons for sale. It was like stumbling upon a Pandora's box, tempting and terrifying all at once. What are you doing? My friend's voice snapped me out of my trance, but the allure of the dark web had already sunk its claws into me. I'm just looking, I mumbled, my heart pounding in my chest. But deep down, I knew that curiosity was quickly turning into something darker. Days turned into weeks, and my fascination with the dark web only grew stronger. What started as innocent curiosity soon spiraled into an obsession as I delved deeper into its murky depths. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon a listing that promised the ultimate thrill, a weapon unlike any other. With trembling hands, I reached out to the seller, striking a deal that would change my life forever. As the days passed, I anxiously awaited the arrival of my purchase, my mind consumed by thoughts of what I had done. But no amount of regret could quell the excitement that coursed through my veins. Little did I know, I had just made a deal with the devil himself. The package arrived under the cover of darkness, its contents shrouded in mystery. With trembling hands, I tore open the package, revealing the weapon that would be my undoing. But as I marveled at its sleek design, a sinister revelation dawned upon me. I was no longer just a curious bystander. I was now a player in a dangerous game with stakes far higher than I could have ever imagined. As I held the weapon in my hands, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had opened a Pandora's box, unleashing forces beyond my control. It started with a simple message, a warning from an unknown sender. "You've crossed a line," it read, sending a shiver down my spine. But I brushed it off as a prank, convinced that I was untouchable behind the veil of anonymity. But as the days passed, the messages grew more ominous, each one serving as a chilling reminder that I was no longer safe. It wasn't long before I realized that I had become the target of something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. I was no longer just a curious bystander, I was now the prey in a deadly game of cat and mouse. With nowhere left to turn, I reached out to the only person who could help me, my friend. But as I poured out my fears and frustrations, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on my own in this nightmare. "You brought this upon yourself," my friend's voice echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of the choices that had led me down this dark path. But even as I pleaded for help, I knew that salvation was nothing more than a distant dream in this twisted world of shadows and secrets. As the threats grew more menacing, I realized that I had no choice but to comply with the demands of my tormentors. But with each payment made, I could feel my soul slipping further into the abyss, consumed by guilt and fear. I had become a pawn in a deadly game of extortion, my every move dictated by unseen hands. And as the walls closed in around me, I knew that there was no escaping the consequences of my actions. In the end, the price of silence was far higher than I could have ever imagined. But just when all hope seemed lost, a glimmer of light pierced through the darkness. The police had finally caught wind of the criminal operation that had ensnared me in its web, launching a full-scale investigation that would bring my tormentors to justice. As I watched from the sidelines, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could see the faintest glimpse of hope on the horizon. But even as justice was served, I knew that the scars of my ordeal would never truly heal. With the nightmare finally behind me, I made a solemn vow to leave the dark web behind for good. It was a chapter of my life that I was all too eager to close, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. But as I ventured out into the light of day, I couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. For better or for worse, the darkness would always be a part of me, a constant reminder of the choices that had led me down this treacherous path. But amidst the uncertainty, one thing was certain. I would never again underestimate the power of the dark web or the horrors that lay within its depths. In the aftermath of my harrowing ordeal, I found myself grappling with the memories that haunted me like specters in the night. The echoes of my own choices reverberated through my mind, each one a stark reminder of the darkness that lurked within me. I couldn't help but wonder what drove me to venture into the depths of the dark web in the first place. Was it curiosity, as I had told myself, or was it something deeper, something darker that had been lurking beneath the surface all along? As I searched for answers, I found myself confronting uncomfortable truths about myself and the world around me. The allure of the dark web had promised thrills and excitement, but it had delivered nothing but pain and suffering. But amidst the darkness, I found a glimmer of hope. For in confronting my own demons, I had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. With the worst of the storm behind me, I set out on a journey of self-discovery and redemption. I sought solace in the warmth of friendships forged in the crucible of adversity, finding comfort in the knowledge that I was not alone in my struggles. Together, we worked to rebuild what had been shattered by the forces of darkness, laying the foundations for a brighter future. And as the days turned into weeks, I found myself slowly but surely reclaiming the pieces of myself that had been lost along the way. But even as I forged ahead, I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows of the past still lingered, waiting to drag me back into their embrace. It was a constant battle, one that I fought with every ounce of strength that I possessed. As I ventured out into the world once more, I found myself confronting the unknown with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. No longer content to simply drift through life, I embraced the challenges that lay ahead with open arms, eager to carve out my own path in the world. But as I stepped out into the light of day, I couldn't help but wonder what lay beyond the horizon. The future stretched out before me like an endless expanse of possibilities, each one tinged with both promise and peril. But amidst the uncertainty, one thing was clear. I was no longer the same person who had ventured into the depths of the dark web all those months ago. I had been forged in the fires of adversity, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. As I navigated the twists and turns of life, I found myself drawn to those who had faced their own trials and tribulations with grace and courage. They were beacons of hope in a world shrouded in darkness, guiding me towards the light with their unwavering resolve. Together, we forged a path forward, each step bringing us closer to the promise of a better tomorrow. And as we stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the unknown with a sense of unity and purpose, I knew that we would overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined us, but the light that we carried within our hearts. And as long as we remained steadfast in our resolve, no obstacle could ever hope to stand in our way. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, I found myself embracing the journey with a sense of wonder and awe. Life was a tapestry of experiences, each one weaving its own unique thread into the fabric of my existence. And as I looked back on the trials and tribulations that had brought me to this moment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the lessons they had taught me. For it was through adversity that I had discovered my own strength and resilience, emerging from the crucible of darkness with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. But even as I looked towards the future with optimism and hope, I knew that the journey was far from over. For life was a never-ending adventure, filled with twists and turns that would test the limits of my resolve. But amidst the uncertainty, one thing was certain: I would face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and conviction, knowing that I was never alone in my struggles. As the sun rose on a new day, I found myself standing on the precipice of a new beginning. The shadows of the past lay behind me, their hold on me growing weaker with each passing moment. And as I gazed out into the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing that I was finally free from the chains that had bound me for so long. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined me, but the light that shone from within. With a renewed sense of purpose and determination, I set out to carve out my own destiny in the world, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and conviction. For I knew that no matter what trials and tribulations awaited me on the road ahead, I would always carry the lessons I had learned from my journey through the darkness with me, a beacon of hope in a world that too often seemed consumed by shadows. And as I took my first steps into the unknown, I knew that the best was yet to come.